Rassie won caps for the Springboks, 2 World Cup winners' medals, and yet Kwagga Smith will tell you straight to your face that he doesn't want to play a full 80 minutes. Most players would kill for that opportunity. Most players dream of being first choice, of starting every test match, of playing the full game. Kwagga Smith? He's different, he's built different. And more importantly, he's chosen a path that most would consider career suicide. The question everyone keeps asking is, why would a player of his caliber, with his achievements, deliberately choose to be an impact substitute? The answer isn't what you think. This isn't about being second choice. This isn't about settling for less. This is about understanding something that most people in rugby still haven't figured out. Kwagga Smith has cracked a code that makes him more valuable in 30 minutes than most players are in 80. And Rassie knows exactly how to exploit it. To understand why Smith refuses to play full games, you need to understand where he came from, not geographically, but mentally. Smith wasn't molded in the traditional 15-a-side academy system. He was forged in the crucible of sevens rugby, where you don't get 80 minutes to make an impact. You get 7 minutes per half, 14 minutes total to prove your worth. In that environment, you learn something crucial. Every single second counts. There's no time to ease into the game. There's no time to find your rhythm. You hit the field at maximum intensity from the first whistle, and you maintain it until the final whistle. That's not just a playing style, that's a mentality. Smith has said it himself. Sevens taught him that you have to make every moment count, because you simply don't have the luxury of time. Now translate that mindset to test rugby. What happens when you take someone wired for 14-minute bursts of maximum effort and tell them they only need to deliver 30 minutes? What happens when that person comes on at the 50-minute mark against opponents who've been battling for nearly an hour? You get something that opposition coaches have nightmares about. But the story goes deeper than just fitness and timing.
The sevens background isn't just about fitness or pace, though Smith has both in abundance. It's about the psychological conditioning. In sevens, you're constantly playing against tired legs because the game never stops. The tempo is relentless. You learn to recognize when defenses are stretched, when legs are heavy, when decision-making starts to deteriorate. You develop a predator's instinct for identifying weakness and exploiting it immediately. Smith doesn't just bring energy off the bench, he brings a completely different attacking threat that defenses aren't prepared for after 50 minutes of forward-dominated rugby. His ability to read the game in those critical moments separates him from other impact players. He doesn't just run hard, he runs smart. He doesn't just make tackles, he makes the right tackles at the right time. This sevens education created a player who understands pressure and how to apply it when opponents are most vulnerable. Here's what makes him genuinely special though. At 103 kilograms, Smith is considered small by international back row standards. When he first broke into test rugby, the critics were everywhere. Too small, too light, won't survive the physicality, can't compete with the bigger Lucies. The usual nonsense that gets thrown at anyone who doesn't fit the traditional mold. But Smith understood something they didn't. In modern rugby, especially in the way South Africa plays, you don't need 6 identical forward options. You need specialists. You need players who can do specific jobs at specific times. Smith made himself indispensable not by trying to be something he wasn't, but by perfecting exactly what he is. A game changer who thrives in the final third of matches. His versatility became his superpower. He can cover flanker, he can play number 8, and in a crisis he can even slot into the back line. That flexibility is what makes the entire Springbok tactical approach possible. Without someone like Smith, the famous bomb squad simply doesn't work. You can't carry 7 forwards on the bench if one of them can't cover multiple positions. You can't deploy a 6-2 split if you don't have that utility player who gives you options. Smith is that player, and he knows it. He's comfortable with it. More than that, he's embraced it completely. When asked about starting versus coming off the bench, Smith's response tells you everything. He doesn't care which it is. His focus is entirely on team contribution. That's not just media-trained corporate speak, that's genuine understanding of his role in the system. And that's exactly what Erasmus needed.
Rassie didn't invent the concept of impact substitutes, but he revolutionized how they're used. The bomb squad isn't just about bringing on replacements. It's about completely changing the nature of the contest in the final 30 minutes. It's about having a second pack that's as good as your starting pack, sometimes better, because they're coming on with full energy tanks against opponents who've been in a war for 50 minutes. Smith is the linchpin of this entire approach. Without him, the math doesn't work. Think about it practically. If you're carrying 6 forwards and 2 backs on the bench in a 6-2 split, one of those forwards needs to be able to cover the backline if there's an injury. One of them needs to have the pace and skill set to slot into multiple positions. That's Smith. He's the insurance policy that allows Erasmus to be aggressive with his bench configuration. But it goes deeper than just coverage. Smith's playing style is perfectly suited to the role Erasmus has designed for him. When he enters the game, he doesn't need time to adjust. He doesn't need to feel his way into it. He hits the field at full speed and immediately starts making things happen. The opposition has spent 50 minutes dealing with the physical brutality of the Springbok forward pack. They've made countless tackles. They've been mauled, scrummed into submission, and physically dominated. Their legs are heavy, their decision-making is slower, and their defensive line speed has dropped. Then Smith comes on. Fresh legs, fresh mind, Seven's pace and Seven's vision. Against tired defenders, it's not a fair fight. And that's exactly the point. Erasmus has weaponized the substitution laws to create situations where his players have an inherent advantage. The starting pack softens up the opposition. The bomb squad finishes them off. Smith has scored crucial tries coming off the bench precisely because of this tactical approach. He explodes space that wouldn't exist earlier in the game. He makes breaks that wouldn't be possible against defenders at full capacity. The timing of his introduction is calibrated to maximize his impact. This isn't accidental. This is sports science meeting tactical innovation. Other teams have tried to copy this model. They've tried to replicate the bomb squad approach, but they're missing the critical ingredient. They don't have a Kwagga Smith. They don't have someone with his unique combination of skills, mentality, and willingness to embrace the role. So the strategy remains uniquely South African.
If Smith starts the game, you lose the weapon. Simple as that. You get a very good back row forward who'll work hard for 80 minutes. But you sacrifice the game-breaking impact substitute who can tear apart tired defenses in the final 30. Erasmus understands this trade-off intimately. Smith himself understands it too. He's not being benched because he's not good enough to start. He's being held back because he's too valuable in the role he's perfected. The closer doesn't start the game, he finishes it. There's a reason this approach has delivered 2 World Cup victories. It works, not just occasionally but consistently. Opposition coaches know it's coming. They know Smith will enter the game around the 50-minute mark. They know what he's capable of doing. They know he'll bring pace and intensity that their tired forwards can't match, and they still can't stop it. That's the genius of the system. It's not a trick play that stops working once people figure it out. It's a fundamental tactical advantage built on simple physics. Fresh beats tired. Every single time. The traditional rugby mindset says your best players should play the most minutes. That the starting 15 should feature your strongest lineup. Erasmus has challenged that assumption completely. He's proven that in certain roles, at certain times, a player can be more effective in 30 minutes than they would be in 80. Smith is living proof of that concept. His statistics back it up. Out of 61 test appearances, he's come off the bench 42 times. That's not a player being kept out of the starting lineup by better options. That's a player who's been deliberately deployed in a specific tactical role because that's where he delivers maximum value. Now, some people argue that Smith should be starting more often, that his talent deserves a spot in the first 15. They're missing the entire point. In the traditional model, yes, better players start and lesser players come off the bench. But Erasmus hasn't built a traditional model. He's created something different. Something that requires players to buy into roles that might seem diminished on paper but are actually more impactful in practice. Smith has bought in completely. He's said publicly that he gets at least 30 minutes off the bench, and that's enough for him to make a difference. He's not measuring his worth by whether his name is on the starting sheet. He's measuring it by what he contributes when his number gets called. That's elite mentality. That's understanding the bigger picture. So when people ask why Kwagga Smith refuses to play 80 minutes, they're asking the wrong question. The right question is, why would he want to? Why would he trade being the closer? The player who comes on and changes games when it matters most for being just another starting forward. Smith has found something rare in professional sport. He's found a role that maximizes his strengths. minimizes his weaknesses, and makes him absolutely irreplaceable. And Rassie Erasmus has built a World Cup winning system around it. That's not settling for less. That's understanding what makes you special and leveraging it perfectly.